Okay, guys, this tutorial demonstration deals with what we're calling the staff transplant project, which will be our second to last project for the year. This is actually all should be a review for you. Should hopefully also be a little bit fun. So let's get started. Again, I'm giving you this file that contains all of these staff members. It's a PSD file. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And in the directions, I'm giving you a link to a folder called Bodies that has all of these bodies in it. So you have to choose a staff member and a body. I'm going to choose The Rock and Mr. Eccles. Okay, so make sure you download from my folder whichever body you want to choose and make sure you can open it into PhotoP. So I'm just going to go into PhotoP and get started. Now there's the PSD file. And again, I said I'm going to do Mr. Eccles on the Rock's body. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to hide everything above Mr. Eccles. To do that quickly, I can left click and hold the left mouse button and drag all the way down the eyeballs to hide them. So there's Mr. Eccles. Now, understand a couple things. These image files are pretty small. I did get them from our website. So there's not a whole lot of pixels that we get to play with. You can see Mr. Eccles looks pretty blurry right here. That's because we're viewing him at 200%. If I zoom out back to 100%, you'll see again that our file is actually pretty small. If we want to check our image size, just again sort of get comfortable and used to checking image sizes, you'll see that it's only 320 by 400 at 72 dpi. Now if I go open The Rock, let's see where will this take me. I've got to navigate all the way to that folder as quickly as I can. Sorry for the delay. Staff transplant, bodies, The Rock. Open. You'll see again that down here, because I have my rulers on, I can see the percentage in which I'm viewing this image. It's at 100%. So is this one. I have already scaled all the body images down to make sure that you don't have to scale any of the staff images up. Remember, we don't ever want to scale up. We always want to scale down. So these are actually going to be really small files, but that's okay. So I'm going to go into my staff layers, make sure I'm on my Eccles layer, select all, Control A, or go up to select all, edit, copy, go to The Rock, edit, paste. And it's within this file, and you can see if I move it around, his head is pretty close to the size of The Rock's already. So now that I have Mr. Eccles in my file that I want, I'm going to go ahead and save this out as a PSD file. We're going to name it properly to begin with. So I'm going to save my PSD. I'm doing this on my PC and in my downloads. Again, if you're on a Chromebook, you should know by now how to save these things and where to save them. And so I'm going to use my naming convention, period 01, Harley J staff. I'm just going to call it staff 01, save. And now we're going to do a little bit of exploratory stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick mask. Okay, now remember how to mask these faces out. To help this and help keep from there being too much confusion, I'm going to hide the background layer that has The Rock in it, and make sure I can fit my entire rectangle of my staff member in my screen. And now I'm going to go up and get my quick selection tool. And as soon as I click on his head, we get a nice selection of Mr. Eccles. Now remember, the important part of this project and the important part of masking people out and other things out is to then go to the Refine Edge button. And we can see we have a nice refined edge. We have a border of 3. It looks pretty good over here. I can flip these backgrounds a little bit to see what it's going to look like. It looks okay. I'm just going to keep that the way it is. Again, with these settings here, border of 3. I was just clicking on background choose. It doesn't hurt anything. It's just helping with the preview. That's all that does. But I want to output to raster mask. So I have a mask that I can play with later. You can see I now have a mask on layer 1. And I'm going to bring the rock back. Now with that selected, I'm going to move him up. Now before we get into trying to make sure that Mr. Eccles' head is big enough, which initially I don't think that it is. It looks a little bit small compared to the rock's head. You have to understand that what I just went through and masking out Mr. Eccles, at least getting an initial mask, could be a lot different depending on the staff member that you've chosen, depending on the hair that the individuals have. So you have to be very careful. You have to use the knowledge that you've already learned to raster mask out the staff member that you've chosen in an excellent way. It's got to be really, you guys have, we're going for realism here, right? We want to make these look like that staff member actually belongs to that body. We're going to do everything we can to make it as realistic as possible. So again, after I get that initial mask, I'm going to zoom in and I'm sort of going to look at where Mr. Eccles is compared to the rock. I can put it over the top here, and that just really looks like he's too small. I can go into my mask, and with black, and I even have a hard edge brush at 100%, I can quickly, and I want to save the neck a little bit, sort of mask out a little bit and take a look at it and just use my eye, use my best judgment and go, yeah, gosh, his head still looks really small. So I'm going to undo that paint. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to actually scale the background layer down a little bit. Now again, this could be different depending on the staff member that you've chosen and the body that you've chosen. So in my case, the rock is just not quite small enough. So I'm going to grab my background and I'm going to go to Edit Free Transform, grab the bottom layer, hold down Shift and scale them down just a little bit. I'm going to leave it like this. We can crop it out later so we get rid of that transparent background. But now I'm going to bring Mr. Eccles in and go, oop, wrong layer. Get my move tool, move him there. I think that looks a little bit better. And again, yes, I know I can see the rock's ear back there, but we can fix that in a little bit. That's one of the last things we're going to do. And again, I'm going to mask that out quickly. Take a quick look and go, yeah, I like that. That works better. The scale works a lot better. So that's what we're going to do. And again, I'm going to undo that quick mask. And the last thing we're going to do for this phase is do a quick, again, we're going to do a mask, but we want to use a brush that isn't that hard edge. We want to use a real sort of maybe a 50% soft brush. And we want to, again, I'm using black to mask this out. I want to keep the neck as much as I can because we're going to blend that skin in together. So I'm just sort of feathering away Mr. Eccles' shirt a little bit. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make that brush a little bit smaller and maybe add a little bit of hardness to it. And again, I want to keep that neck so that we can blend that out. But I don't want any of his shirt. So I can't tell if that, yeah, we got a little bit there. I'm hiding the background just to make sure we get most of his neck, excuse me, most of his shirt out of there. So I'm clicking, 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 and that looks pretty good for now. Maybe smaller brush. Yeah, again, so this is me going back and forth trying to make sure I have something that works. Right now, off the get-go, it actually looks pretty good because we had a nice feather on that neck down there. But in phase 2, I'll show you how to make this look even better.